Yeah, welcome to Global West today. We're going to be working on a Corvette, and this happens to be a Corvette that is raced. And so there's a few things here. He's coming in for the new front end, and he has performance springs on this particular vehicle. We're going to put our control arms, uppers and lowers on, and reuse his springs and set him back up with a performance alignment. Now, as you can see, we're going through this pretty quick, where we've jacked the car up, and we're removing the shocks, the outer tie rod end, and now we're going to remove the calipers and what have you. Now, because this is a racing Corvette, the springs are really short, so we can get away with using a floor jack on the spring with the lower control arm and supporting it. But if this is a stock car, you're going to need a spring compressor in order to pull this off. These Corvettes run a short spring anyway, but like I said, this is a racing Corvette, so these springs are unusually short. They're a high rate and they're lowered. So again, we don't need a spring compressor for this particular job. Anyway, dropping the control arms off, as you can see, we have new ones going on. There's rights and lefts. They're pre-assembled, ready to go. These arms have caster built into them. That's something these Corvettes don't have, and that's why we're switching this over for the gentleman who's got this car. He needs caster in order to make it go into the corners. The upper control arm, where you can see us here throwing some new bolts and what have you in there. The reason why we do that is because the stock bolts, the 7/16 bolts, have serrations on them, and the serrations have worn off, and the frame is a little bit larger, so a new bolt will not work. So we put new 7/16 bolts in, which is fine. They're grade 8s, and we can put that assembly back together. The lower control arm comes with bolts all ready to go, and we just bolt that up as you see. Now the spring, like I said before, is real short, and it is a performance spring, so it allows us to stuff it up into the frame, and then we can adjust that rotating spring pocket down in the base so everything indexes, and then we simply just use the floor jack and assemble the arm with the spring in it and just jack it up. It allows us to then put the spindle on, as you can see right here. And we'll go ahead and torque the nuts down, of course, and cotter pin it and get it ready to go. One of the nice things about this is that with the short springs, you don't need that spring compressor. Spring compressors are sometimes a tough thing to deal with. Now, what we do have here is you can see that we've got a tube in between the pads on the caliper. That's an 1¼ inch tube. It's 6 inches long, and we leave that in the caliper to keep it separated because the rotor happens to be 1¼ inch wide. There's springs inside the caliper that are behind the pad, and they'll actually close that gap up for you, and then it'll make it difficult for you to put that caliper back on the rotor. But by using those tubes, it makes it very easy to reassemble. Simply put the shocks back in, tie rod ends go back on, reassemble the sway bar, and you're pretty much ready to go. You can do this job easily in a day. It's not that difficult. Like I said, if you do have stock springs, though, you will require a spring compressor. This particular car is raced. It's an autocross car, so it's got stiffer springs than normal, and they're shorter. So if you need any information or anything on this, contact Global West at globalwest.net.